I'd kind of like to start this talk sort of just about words and the power that they can really have. Like, I feel like sometimes we forget that these like intangible, almost abstract things, when organized in the right way and structured in the right way and said in the right tone or the right context, they can have a huge impact on people. And I mean, we even have like a saying that says like actions speak louder than words, but I think we can all agree sometimes words are pretty loud in our lives. I bet all of us here can think of a time in which a set of words, however they were conveyed to us, really impacted us. It could be a movie quote, it could be a book quote, it could be just someone saying something that stuck with you forever. And so tonight I kind of want to open up with just sort of, I think that I can think of the last time that really happened to me. The last time I read something and it impacted me deeply, and it shifted my mindset, and it really just like hit me really hard. So I was on a train. I was riding a train. I used to ride a train to work every single day. I used to work downtown, and my options were either pay like a ton of money to park or ride the train, so I rode the train. And on that train, sometimes I just looked at Reddit memes the whole time, but oftentimes I tried to make sure I also read my Bible. And I specifically remember during this time in my life, I was trying to get through the Bible. I had never actually read the Bible cover to cover. This was a few years ago now, and I just remember I had said, I was like, I'm going to do it. I wasn't following like a specific plan. I didn't have anything like that. I just was like, I'm just going to start, and I'm going to finish. And like I started really excited, right? Like every time you start something like that, like any long project, you like get yourself psyched, like I'm going to do it. It's going to be great. I'm going to get that money, right? But like at this point, I wasn't there anymore, okay? I had got that money, all right? I was like, it's in the mail or something. I know it's coming. I got it. I wasn't as psyched, right? I was in like the doldrums, if you will. And I was reading 1 John, so I was close. Like, that's close to the end. I was like, I could see the end. And I remember it was chapter 4, and I'm getting through it, and just all of a sudden, I read verse 16, and it hit me like really hard. And I remember I read the rest of the chapter. It was only like 5 verses left or something. And then I like immediately went back to that verse and just like dwelled on it. Like I remember I put my phone down and I thought about it just in the train. And then I even remember distinctly that day, I remember getting off the train still thinking about it. And I remember just over the next few days and just while I really dwelled on these words, and I just like chewed on them in my mind, if that makes sense. And so spoiler alert, tonight's topic is 1 John 4:16. I'll get it up on the screen here in a second, and then let you guys get there if you want. But if you do turn there, know that like that's it, you did it. We're not like jumping around a lot tonight. We're right there. You know, sometimes it's like, could you open Romans, and then they go to Exodus, and then like sometimes the pastor has like the gall to be like, now if you could open your book to Philemon, and you're like, Philemon, like dog, it is. see, that's what I'm talking about. But like okay, tell me if you do this. So sometimes they say that, and you're like, well, I know Philemon's towards the back, but you also don't know exactly where it is, and you're not about to look at your table of contents, right? Does anyone else do that? Like where you're like, I'm not opening the table of contents because this person next to me is going to think I'm some Bible scrub, and that's not me. So you do not do it, right? And then you do the thing where you like just kind of slowly like go through, right? And then like you miss it because it's like a page long in some Bibles, right? Because it's so small. And then like, yeah, I don't know. Does anyone else do that? Can I get like anything? Okay, cool. That has nothing to do with the sermon, but A, I wanted to give you time to get there, and B, I needed to make sure I wasn't alone in my like selfish pride. So this is our topic tonight. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them. That's my favorite verse. Like of all the verses, none have spoke to me the way that I believe this one has. And so when I decided, this was a while ago, I started thinking, I think I want to do a sermon on this verse. And anytime I tackle anything that I like this, or I've never done this before, but like when I started tackling this, or anytime I'm tackling anything like big enough that I feel like I can't digest it, I like to break it down into simpler parts. So that's kind of what I did here. I broke it down into, there's 3 sentences, right? It's 3 sentences, 3 parts. That makes sense, right? It's like logical. So you got, and so we know and rely on the love God has for us. God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God, or, well, close. It's whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in them, but that's close enough. Anyways, so yeah, I broke it down, okay? Because I can't think about this much at one time. And I understand they're all connected, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying they're not, and they should be looking at, contextually and stuff, but really, I started writing it, right? Like I started writing this sermon, okay? And I was like, man, judging by like what I want to talk about, and I know like about the time I'm going to have, I really only have time tonight to talk about this first piece. And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. And I really want to tonight get into like what I think that means and how I think we can apply it in our everyday lives. And I hope we can all walk away from here having something we can apply. So I look at this, and it's still, again, I'm basic. I'm a simpleton. I know, like, it still isn't, like, perfect. Like, it's not the most basic element. Because really, when I see this, I see 2 thoughts, okay? So I think there's another slide. It should be, and so we know the love God has for us, and so we rely on the love God has for us, right? Like, we have an and in there, and this kind of really ties it together, okay? And so what I did then was I realized, well, like, what does it even mean to know something? What does it mean to rely on something, or someone even, I should say? And so what I did, I looked those words up. I looked up know, and I looked up rely. And so the definition of know is to understand or apprehend clearly or concisely, okay? And the definition of rely, man, this is so cool. I just get to like point and it just happens. The definition of rely is to put trust in. So for me, at least, when I define these words and I broke them out like this, it really helped me, because I immediately thought of my relationships, okay? And I like just, the people I know. And I think of, okay, who are the people I know, like really know, okay? And who are the people that I put my trust in? And so I have these 2 groups of people, right? However, when I was thinking about them, there was a lot of overlap. Like, there's a lot of correlation there, right? Between the people that you really know and the people that you put your trust in. I think if you think about your relationships, you'd kind of realize that's mostly true. And in fact, like, why don't you, if you think of one relationship and you're thinking, okay, someone that I'm close to, someone that I really feel like I understand and I know, and someone that I'm able to rely on and put my trust in. Now, if you could think of that, and you think about where you are now and where you are when you started, there probably wasn't a lot of understanding. There probably wasn't a lot of reliance or trust. And that's because, that's just how friendships work, right? Like usually friendships or relationships in general start with, I don't know, usually it's like a common interest or a common place, right? Like, hey, we're both in math class, or hey, we both like basketball. And then some friendships never even really get past that. And but the ones that do get past that, usually what happens is someone confides something real. Someone says something that, hey, we're not talking about basketball anymore. I'm putting my trust in you that you're going to respond to this, okay? And when we do that, we get to know that person a little better, right? This person now has a better understanding of you because, oh, they're going through that, or now I see this, and then it allows growth in the friendship, because then when you know someone 0, you're only able to trust them this much. But if I know someone here, now I can trust him more. And then it just kind of goes and goes and goes until, you're best friends, or I don't know, you have a falling out. That sucks. So, okay, cool, Bo, I get it. I get what you're saying. So you're saying if we can apply this back to the verse, you're saying in order to know God, I need to rely on him. I need to put my trust in God and his love, in order to understand his love, in order to know what his love is like. Okay, cool, that's fine, sure, but what does that mean? How do I do that? What is it? How do I rely on God? And I guess I'll start by saying we live in America, and that's really cool, and I'm happy I live here. But we have, I think I speak for most of us when I say we have our needs, for the most part, taken care of. Yes, we still need to cook our food and things, but we're not, for the most part, we're taken care of pretty well. We have a lot of luxuries, if you will. So, at least here, because of that, we kind of get to choose what we put our trust in. And again, I understand, I have to eat food. Yeah, I know. You have to rely on food, I get it. But beyond that kind of stuff, you really get to choose at the end of the day, hey, what's going to get me through this day? Or I'm going to rely on this to fill me up. Or I'm going to rely on this, to just get me through the day. And there's a lot of things that we can do that with. There's a lot of things we can choose to put our trust in. But really, in order to put our trust in God, in order to rely on God, you really have to be intentional, okay? Rarely do you find yourself, I accidentally relied on God. That in my experience, I have to put myself there, okay? So I know that still doesn't answer your question. So to answer your question, and just stay with me here for a second, in order to rely on God and his love, you need to love, okay? You need to love others. Specifically, and this is kind of a scary word, you need to love others to the point that it is sacrificial to you. And I know sacrifice isn't our favorite word, and it's not my favorite word either. And I don't want you guys to be scared and be I'm not expecting anyone here to be a martyr or take a bullet. That's not what I'm talking about. It's not the sacrifice I'm talking about. I'm talking about the sacrifices we make every day. Okay, every single day we have opportunities to sacrifice our time, our talent, and our treasure. We do. We have opportunities to use those to give to other people, to love other people. And I think one people group that I think of when I think of sacrifice, and I know this probably isn't going to super resonate with most of you, but it's parents, okay? And I know who says, yeah, cool. It's parents. Parents, constantly, and I realize this now as a parent, but your whole life, it feels I'm sacrificing my time, I'm sacrificing my money, I'm sacrificing my mental energy, my physical, it's all, I'm spending so much of me on them, on raising these kids. And to demonstrate this point, I'm going to talk about ice cream, okay? Me too. In fact, I love ice cream. In my opinion, well, this isn't an opinion. Ice cream is the best dessert. And at me, all right? I know they say don't at me, but you can at me on this one. I will stand up for ice cream, all right? I can defend this one. I got this one, all right? So ice cream, right? I love ice cream. In fact, let's bring it in, guys. Let's bring it in. In fact, I love ice cream to the point where I know when, at my house, when we're low, all right? I know when I'm running out, right? Because I'm monitoring, because I want to know how many bowls do I got left? All right, do I got 2 bowls? I just said 2, what an idiot. I got 2 bowls, I got 3 bowls. Maybe if I stretch it, I can get 4. So, you're right. Who said that? No, you're right. You're right, I can never stretch it that far. I'm only a human. Anyways, so I got my ice cream. It's low. I know it's low. My kids, who, this is another fact, are adorable. I'm sorry, you can look it up. I think it's there somewhere, or ask someone. I have adorable kids. They're cute. when they come up to me with their adorable little faces and I'm low on ice cream and their sometimes adorable attitudes, they come up and they say, Daddy, can I have some ice cream? And sometimes, straight up, I'm like, we just ran out. You just missed it. The ice cream police came and, it happens. It happens. And so then, thank you, you're right. I don't know who let me up here. And then you know what I do? All right, and gosh, it's terrible. Then I go back downstairs after they're asleep. I eat the rest of that ice cream, and I throw the container in the outside trash can. Yeah. This is a perfect crime. There's a movie coming out. It's called Bo's 11. All right. But sometimes when I'm a real father who loves his children and is charitable and giving to them, I will say, okay, yeah, you can have ice cream. And let me tell you something. I feel the weight of that sacrifice. All right, that is not nothing to me, okay? I feel that. And let me tell you, there's no heavier spoon than the spoon that's giving away the last piece of ice cream, all right? That's it, all right? That is the heaviest spoon on the planet. However, when my wonderful wife got ice cream, like just that day or something, because she's awesome and knows I love ice cream, and she was like, I'm going to do this nice thing. And so we're full. And I don't get those like, I don't know, what is it, like pint? What is it, these? And then they have like these. This is me. This is my space right here, all right? So we get these. And when I know we're full, I give that stuff away like candy, all right? I do. I'm like I seek out my kids. I'm like, hey, I'm having ice cream. Do you guys want some? Huh? And of course they say yes, because regardless of my failings as a parent, I taught them to like ice cream, all right? They love ice cream. I got that one on lock. But yeah, when it's full, I just give it away. It's like no big deal to me, right? It's not until I can see the bottom of that container, because there's like no, when you get and there's no ice cream there, that's when I feel it. That's when I know, oh no, I might not have enough. Like, oh, sorry kids, tough life. And this is how we live, okay? This is often how we treat people and how we love, okay? We will ask ourselves, do I have enough? Am I taken care of? Do I have enough money? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough whatever it is that you value? I do? All right, cool. I can love then. Yeah, I can love. Like, oh, you need a ride and you're my best friend and you're on the way? Of course I'll give you a ride. You're like my fourth best friend on a good day and you live like 6 houses away? Sorry, dog, you're on your own. Like, you don't need a ride, right? Like, you just really want a ride. So, it's fine. And that's what we do. That's how we treat people. And obviously maybe not on that like micro of a level, but I believe that we do that. I do that. I totally do that. However, if you want to rely on God, you give that person that ride, that fourth best friend. You give your kids that ice cream. Don't hold me accountable for that one, right? So that's what you do, because when you put yourself in a situation like that, that gives you an opportunity to rely on God to be the one that fills you up, okay? Because this is what happens. I mean, this is obviously, you don't say this every time it's settled, but you say, God, please fill me up in this situation in which I am pouring myself out. And when you do that, when you choose to let God be the thing that fills you up when you're pouring yourself out, that's when you get to know him. That's when you get to know his love. That's when you get to understand better, while you're sacrificing, the sacrifices he made for you. And sometimes even God's love comes through in a way that you didn't even think that option was on the table. All right? And then it can become a cycle, just like your friendship we talked about earlier. You put a little bit of trust in him, and you know him a little better. And because you remember that time that you just remember God's love was there, you can trust them a little more, okay? And then it's just this cycle. And then pretty soon, you're doing something. You're putting your trust in God in an area that you never thought was possible when you were down here. You look up, when you started this journey, you looked up and you thought, I never could do that. I couldn't do that. That's impossible. But it happens, guys. It can happen. Okay. So, cool, I get it, Bo. I need a sacrifice. Sure, whatever, that's fine. How much? Right? Like that's kind of, I think, sometimes where our mind goes. Well, how much do I have to give? Like if it's money, is it the like kind of famous 10%? If it's time that we're talking about, can we just talk like a flat number? Like we'd be like, 1 hour's good, 3 hours good, like. But I'll be honest, there's no number. And I don't think anyone has ever said it better, in my opinion, than C.S. Lewis does in Mere Christianity. And specifically here, he's talking about finances, okay? He is. That's what he's talking about. But I believe it can apply to our time, our talent, and our treasure. Here's what it says. I do not believe one can settle how much we ought to give. I am afraid the only safe rule is to give more than we can spare. In other words, if our expenditure on comforts, luxuries, amusements, etc., is up to the standard common among those with the same income as our own, we are probably giving away too little. If our charities do not at all pinch or hamper us, I should say they are too small. There ought to be things that we should like to do and cannot do because our charitable expenditure excludes them. Ugh, like, gosh, that sucks. Like, right? Like I remember when I first read this, I was thinking, oh no, he's gonna say some crazy number. Oh gosh. But whoa, almost fallen. This is so much harder. This is, because even if he said a crazy number, like, okay, he's talking about finances. Let's say, I don't know what a crazy number for you is, but for me, 50%. Let's say 50%. That's a lot. And I know there are people out there that do that, and like, praise God for them. They're awesome. Maybe there's people in this room, and again, super cool. But for me, giving away 50% of my money sounds difficult, to say the least. And the problem with that, though, is if he just said a crazy number, that still leaves room for comfort. Okay? Because, yeah, 50% is crazy. Maybe I can build up to it, but it would take me years, decades. Maybe I'm 80 years old when I can finally do that. However, once I get there, once I get to 80, once I get to that 50%, I'm golden. Like, I'm good. I'm able to just chill on that, right? Like, it doesn't say, if it didn't say it, like, whatever. You need help. Sorry, you go see the other 50%. This one's mine. But this is much more difficult. Because this says right here, hey, that thing that you're making sure you're in control of, that thing that's easy, that thing that's safe, that thing that's comfortable, maybe it's time it's not. Maybe it's time, instead of you being in control, you let God control some of it. And guys, we have to do this. Like, it's so hard, but we have to. Because if we don't, if I'm left to my own devices, if I'm allowed to stay in my bubble, my little sphere here, I'll make sure I get mine. And I bet you'll do the same. I'll make sure I look out for number one. I'll make sure I'm taken care of. And then, and only then, if I got a little bit left in the tank, if I got a little bit of extra, I can live with that. Sure, I can do that. But guys, I don't think that's the love that Jesus is talking about. Because guys, non-Christians do that. People of, like, the world does that. Okay? We all do that. We all just, oh yeah, I gave that guy a 5. And like, oh, that 5, it was important to you? You were really going to do something with it? Well, no. Oh, okay. And like, that's great. You made that guy's day. But I just don't think that's it. I don't think that's the kind of love, because I don't need to rely on God to love with my leftovers. I don't need to even really know God to love with my leftovers. I wasn't going to use them anyway. They were leftovers, and no one likes leftovers. Well, I kind of do, but my wife hates them. Anyways, and you see if we don't do this, if we stay where we are and we continue to just, I'll get mine, yeah, sure, you guys have a little bit of the rest. If we do that, and we stop putting our trust in God, we start to recede. We start to know God less, because all of a sudden, we don't really know God here anymore. We only know him here, and whoa, I can't trust him with that anymore. And then you go down and down, and soon the chasm is like this big between you and him and his love. So I kind of want to close with this. There are 2 questions I kind of want to ask you. Where is God asking you to rely on him, to put your trust in him? And where is he calling you to know him more? Where is he saying, hey, I'd like you to give that to me, and you would really get to know my love here? Because guys, if I can say, I don't really know God here. I don't know his love in this area. Or I don't know him here, or whatever. Then am I relying on him? And if I'm not relying on him, then maybe I'm just looking out for me. Maybe I'm just making sure I get mine. Maybe I'm not sacrificing. And gosh, if I'm not sacrificing, am I just loving with my leftovers? Am I even loving at all? And if I'm not loving, if I can say I am not loving, then I know I'm not doing God's will for my life. Because God's will for all of our lives is for us to become more like him. And what is God like? The very next sentence tells us, God is love. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for this space that we can come and learn about you and love on each other and just grow together and just learn to rely on you, Lord. And I pray, Lord, that our small groups can be full of just building each other up and full of just loving each other and, again, just learning about you, God. And I pray, in fact, that every single small group tonight, Lord, comes out closer to you and closer to each other than when they started. And Lord, please, again, just help us to know you. Help us to rely on you, because God, that's hard for us. We know it shouldn't be, Lord, but gosh, it is. It's hard for me. It's hard for, I'm sure, many people here. Bless these kids, Lord. Bless these leaders. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen.